Welcome to Leading with Faith, a podcast where we explore faith, leadership, and the journey that connects them. I'm Dr. Kristi Kirk, and I serve as president of Concordia University, Texas, and I'm excited to welcome you to this conversation today. I pray that through these conversations, you are challenged to lead with faith in your own vocational callings. It is my great privilege today to welcome two of our amazing young student leaders, Ruiz and Raley Ehlers. Thank you both for being here today. So exciting to have this conversation with you as we explore this idea of leading with faith. So, KK, why don't you get us started and talk about your own journey and what brought you to Concordia, and just tell us who you are and all about you.
So my journey to Concordia honestly was a little rocky. I mean, I'm an athlete. I play volleyball here, so my journey of looking at colleges was like, what school is going to offer me the best education along with continuing my athletic journey. And when I found Concordia, I toured during COVID, and I was a little nervous. I mean, there wasn't students on campus because of the pandemic, but I loved the energy the school gave off. And I was like, I just love the view. I love what the core values of Concordia. You know what, I'm going to take a shot. And I came here, and I've never regretted a moment of it. The community is amazing. The faculty and staff are very welcoming and caring. And so just being on campus and really cultivating the community that's already there, and just finding ways to add some of my culture to it, along with seeing where I can help expand and reach out to others.
Yeah, I love it. And Keke, you're from Austin, right?
Yes.
So chose Concordia because it's close to home, but also because it brings you these other added benefits as well, right?
Yes.
So Raley, tell us about you.
So I had kind of a similar experience as KK, just minus the athletic part. So I also toured Concordia during COVID, and I heard about it from my home pastor at my church at the time, and he had always just inspired me to go into ministry. It had always been on my heart, but he is someone who really pushed me to lean into that. And so I knew that a lot of I grew up going to Camp Lone Star, and so I knew that a lot of my role models that went there, that worked there, also went to Concordia, and I was like, I wonder if that's linked somehow. And so I also toured during COVID, and it was also an incredible experience. Like you said, no people on campus, so that was a little scary. But I saw what it could be, and I also have just never regretted coming to Concordia. The community has just been awesome. My professors have been awesome. There have just been so many pivotal moments when I was at Concordia that has just shaped who I am as a person right before I graduate. And so, yeah.
Graduate, both of you graduate soon.
December, yeah.
Both of you in December.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh, I'm so excited to be able to shake your hands as you cross the stage. So it'll be so fun.
So exciting.
And Concordia will miss you because you've both been amazing young leaders. You've made an impact on the campus. And what I love about the two of you in this conversation is that you represent so much of our student body, right? Raley kind of coming up through the rank of church and church camp and your pastor's recommendation and in our church work programs. And KK, a very different path, bringing you locally, kind of the athletic route, but also a deep woman of faith and impacted by our faith-filled community. So talk for both of you how your own personal faith has shaped your experience at Concordia and just in life in general.
You want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. So I think that when I was in high school, I really didn't have, my pastor had actually left at that time, and I didn't really have any leaders who really shaped who I was, and so I didn't know how to make faith my own. Obviously my family has just been such an inspiration to me in that way, but I think when I came to Concordia, it really taught me how to truly rely on Jesus and truly have a relationship with Jesus. And the professors and role models at Concordia have really helped me to learn how to do that. Dr. Humans and Dr. Carey specifically, and Pat Fick and Pastor Jake have all just helped me shape my faith into what it is today. And now I truly feel like I have that relationship with Jesus. I think that without Concordia, I would never have learned how to do that. And that is something that is going to be with you your whole life. Your relationship with Jesus, people will come and go, but he is faithful through everything that you're through. And so I think that it really helped me cultivate who I am in my faith today.
Yeah, I love that, because what you're describing there really is really what happens in college in lots of ways, right? We develop our own identities around who we are, and that's our faith identities, that's our kind of career focus. In some cases, it's relationships, right? And it's just this beautiful time of being open to the opportunities and being aware of how we are becoming adults, and
Right.
really a time to be intentional about that and really think through that. KK, talk about that in your own faith journey and kind of how you lead with faith in very different sort of Concordia communities.
Just to kind of add on to what you were saying is like that intentionality behind your faith and being open-minded. Growing up, like in my culture, you grow up Catholic, and I grew up going to a Spanish church. Spanish was my first language, and as I grew up, I slowly drew away from my faith, just because I couldn't really balance life and being busy and traveling a lot for club and for school. And then I was like, I need to find a way to get back into my faith. And I talk a lot with my dad, just because he finds a way to kind of keep me open-minded. I usually have a narrow path, kind of like tunnel vision, of this is my path, this is what I need to focus on, and if this is not in my path right now, then like I can wait until later. And I realized that like that's not the case. God is always going to be with me. God's always with me, whether I'm on the court, if I'm driving to work, or if I'm just walking around, enjoying God's creation. And one thing that my dad said that really stuck with me is, even when you're going through life and you're having a hard time, the first thing you want to do is call a loved one and talk about it, like kind of debrief what's going on. But sometimes, like, that loved one, you can't call them on the phone. Yeah. But like the one person that you can call on that's always going to be there is God.
Right.
And that's something that's really resonated and stuck with me. And honestly, coming to Concordia has really helped me grow my faith, because it's helped me grow that appreciation for God, and also being more intentional with my time. And growing up, I always thought that you have to be in church in order to be faithful, in order to be truly devoted. But I had a conversation with former President Don Christian my freshman year. I remember I was in the student government office, and he was just passing by, and he saw that I looked stressed, and he's like, "Hey, let's talk." I was like, "Hi, who are you?" And so one thing that he always said was, you always carry your faith with you. You always have your church, your chapel, wherever you worship with you. It's always in your heart and in your mind. As long as you are going through this and you are, focused on what you want to talk to God about, you are your church. And you don't have to be somewhere specific in order to worship, And so that's something that's always stuck with me. And being with my family, and then also balancing that with school, I was like, I need to find a way to make time for myself and make time for my conversations with God, because this last year I've had many conversations with him, and it's helped keep me grounded. Because being busy, we're both really busy, so we have to find that time to just do that self-care, but also make your time with God, because at the end of the day, like, he's always going to have your back.
There's so much that we could just kind of play off in that conversation. And one of the things I love about Concordia is it is this beautiful mix of the sacred and the secular, right? It is, on one hand, you're getting an education, right? You're going to classes, you have your jobs, you're playing sports, you're doing your things, right? But in other ways, it is an opportunity to model kind of the integration of faith into what we do. That reminder, we're always in Christian community with other people around us, that we always have the opportunity to stop and worship, to stop and pray, to do what we need to do. Raley, tell some stories kind of about that, about how you've seen that happen for you at Concordia, of that kind of integration of preparing to be, in your case, a professional church worker, but study, learning, kind of class, but also faith development.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the first time I ever saw that, just like kind of integrated into the classroom, was actually when I was a freshman. It was my first semester. It was in one of Dr. Humans' classes. We had to make like a spiritual life map. And It's just like everything that has impacted you spiritually throughout your life. And my grandfather had passed away like about a month before, like right before I came to Concordia. And so I think I still just like hadn't unpacked that. I still was kind of sitting on that, and I kind of never got a chance to process that. But I had put that he had impacted me in my presentation. And so I just remember standing up there and just like bawling. Just like I didn't know that was going to happen, but it did. And I just remember like the people who were in that class, like people I had just met, like were so kind to me. Like they prayed over me. Like one of them went and filled up my water for me. They helped like calm me down and like were there, and like they didn't make fun of me. I was like, wow, this is so embarrassing. They were always going to make fun of me, but like instead of that, they were there to love me and to support me. And not only that, but like throughout the next weeks checking up on me. Like they were there to be like, hey, like, are you okay? Like, how's this going? And so I think that is one of the first times that I saw just like the Lord impact me through the classroom specifically.
That's one of my favorite things about Concordia, too. That happens all the time, at work. And for the most part, we go about our lives, but we get to bring our whole selves, our whole stories with our colleagues and even students. And when life happens and something happens, people are there to share that with you and to pray over you and to speak encouragement into your life. And that's just been a great blessing for me in the 3 decades that I've been at Concordia. So how about for you, KK? Any stories around that and sort of that integration?
Very similar to Raley's. Freshman year as well, my uncle had gotten diagnosed with COVID, and obviously that time was very hard for everybody. And I remember getting a text message. I'm in class, and I get a text message, and it's like, emergency family meeting right now, Zoom link. So I told my professor, I was like, I need to step out. I remember I was in Building C, I go up to the restroom right next to Student Central, and I'm just sitting on the ground and, taking in all this not so good news. And a student walks in, she sees that obviously like I'm distressed and not in the right space, and she runs downstairs, she goes and buys me candy, and she just sits with me, and to this day, like, I'd never spoken to her once before. I mean, at Concordia, you're going to smile and wave at everybody.
Right, sure.
But so I've seen her multiple times. I just never knew who she was. And she just sat there. She waited until I was ready to talk. And then she kind of just helped me kind of digest the information and just kind of feel what I was feeling. And then after that, she just, we parted ways, and she just, so it was just that moment of, hey, I'm here with you. And I'm going to support you, and I'm going to love you. We're complete strangers. We don't know each other. And in this world, like, you don't get that very often.
What a beautiful expression of Christian community.
And it still impacts me until this day. She just graduated this past semester, and I remember I never talked to her after that. Like, it was just like a passing moment. But it stuck with me, and like the following year, I ran into her, and I was like, hey, like, I never said thank you to what you did for me and what you did to help me out. Like, I don't know what I would have done in that very moment if you hadn't came and consoled me. And then in the classroom, as a business major, I have Daniel Guerrero very, very often, and love that professor. And he always ends his like speaker series with, how has your faith impacted your life, and how has it driven you to where you are now? And as a tunnel vision, trying to get rid of that habit, it's opened my mind to understanding that everyone's faith takes them to different paths, and there's not necessarily like one path that you have to take. And so being in those situations where I get to hear from other either alumni or CEOs of companies, and it's like, hey, like, my faith has kind of followed me, or I've taken it and it's directed me into this path. It's kind of beautiful to see the variety of different paths that everyone's taken, but also like how they implement it in their lives. But also like that change from where they were in their MBA or in their undergraduate and where they are now. So like that journey.
Right. I'll credit Pastor Jake for this. Language I've learned from him is we all have one primary vocation, primary calling, and that's follower of Jesus, right? To just rest in our identity as children created by God, loved by God. That's our primary vocation. And then we all have secondary vocations. We get to figure those out, right? So what is my career path? What am I going to be on the volleyball team or not? Am I going to work at camp this summer or not? Those are all secondary vocations that we get to explore, and there's a lot of freedom in those. Yes, God has created us uniquely with certain gifts and skills that we can use to His glory, but how we use them, the paths are wide open, and our secondary call, our vocations, we get to really figure out, and I think that's what you're describing there, right? So talk about decisions you've had to make, kind of pivotal moments as you've prepared either to come to Concordia or while you were at Concordia, where you really felt like faith helped drive that decision.
Yeah. Do you want to go?
Oh, sure. So a pivotal moment for me would honestly have to be joining the volleyball team and having to be like, we go to chapel every Wednesday together before and after every game. We pray together, and it's that not just sense of community, but it's also like the love that everyone has for each other. Even joining like student government, student athletic advisory committee, everyone finds a way to incorporate their culture, their background, and who they identify as. Like, it's just everyone's faith is very unique to themselves, and they find a way to drive those conversations to understand everybody else's identity, their culture and beliefs, but integrate it together so that we can create a beautiful picture together.
I love that. How about you, Raley? Pivotal moments?
I think like coming to Concordia and how I made that decision was kind of a pivotal moment. I think when I was a senior in high school, like I said, I grew up going to camp. I had always like had those role models and just thought to myself, like, I really want to do that one day. Like, I want to work at camp. I want to be someone who is a role model and who points kids towards Jesus. And it was my last year at camp, and one of the counselors that I looked up to the most just like pulled me aside, and he was like, hey, like, you should work here next year. Like, you would be amazing at that. And like, I'd always thought like, wow, like I can't live up to like what they are doing. I just like was like, wow, really, like, humble yourself. Like, it's not about me at all. Like, it's about God. And like, that is the beginning of the lesson that I'm still learning of, like, God picks up our slack where we fall short. And so it was just kind of like him coming to me and being like, I see this in you. And that was one of the number one things that encouraged me to go into church work, to come to Concordia, to just like really dive into my passion, to tell others about Jesus. So yeah.
So again, so much good stuff we could explore there. First of all, that sense of how God uses other people to influence us, right, and to particularly to help us shape our own callings. I can point to many people in my career who said, "I see this in you. You know, you should think about this, or would you do this?" And that helps lead you along the path, right? God uses people in community. Also, I really want to explore this idea about leadership and kind of how you both have stepped into leadership roles. Again, very different ways. KK, yours is very formal on our campus as student body president, as chair and president of various student organizations. And Raley, you're certainly deeply involved and have a leadership influence and deeply connected in that DC and church work program. Talk about that kind of call into leadership and how God has developed that in you and how you think about using that as a tool to serve.
I genuinely think that, God really gives everybody different gifts, and I feel like the gift that He's blessed me with is just empathy, and just wanting to be and help people around me. I know at first coming to Concordia, it's very scary. The only other person I really knew was Raley and Hannah, just because me and Hannah went to school together from 6th to 12th grade.
Nice. I never made that connection. That's great.
Yeah. So we took our graduation pictures together, and I know she's always been like, hey, like, come with me to Refuge, come with me to chapel, come with me to my church. But it's just having that strong and deep connection to to people around me, even if I don't know them. It's kind of like what Kayla did, the girl that came and helped me in my time. It's like she doesn't know who I am, but she wants to help me out. And I feel like not many people really dive into that because it's scary. You don't know everybody. But for me, going to Concordia and having that empowering culture and community of, hey, like, ask those questions, take a shot, like, try something new. Don't be afraid to fail because we're going to be here to catch you.
I love that, yeah.
We had a guest speaker the other day, and he said, I don't like to think of failing as failing in the end, being in the same spot. I like to think of it as failing forward. Because you're failing, but you're also figuring out what you can do for the next time so that you can push yourself towards success. And that resonated with me a lot, and it's just like, how do I find ways to get others to want to help others and enjoy it? You know, I know a lot of people think community service, like a lot of like negative connotation to that, but it's you're using God's gift and sharing it with others, and that's a beautiful thing. And so being like president for student government and being president for SAC, or Student Athletic Advisory Committee, it was scary at first. I didn't know what I was doing. I got into student government not really knowing what to expect. I'd never been a part of any organizations, even in high school, other than athletics. So this was all something new, but that, hey, like, you can fall back on me, or God's going to pick up that slack that, you know, or that lack of knowledge. So with that, I feel like God's really guided me to not only just help others, but be a servant leader, like helping, doing things and trying to lead by example so that others can see that and slowly start to integrate that into their daily lives.
Yeah. What for you, Raley? Leadership, how do you step into that?
Yeah.
What do you say yes to, and how do you make those decisions?
So I think, like KK said, like everyone has their own gifts. I think everyone leads in different ways. I think that oftentimes people think that if they are a leader, they have to know all the answers, they have to be perfect. But I recently read this book for one of my classes called In the Name of Jesus, and it talks about how to like be a better like servant of the Lord in your everyday life, and it talks about moving from a place of like in power in your leadership to moving in a place of love in leadership. And like instead of like thinking that you have to know all the answers and leading because you think you can, to humble yourself and just be like, hey, maybe I don't know all the answers, but I'm here to show you that love of God through my leadership, and to just kind of be honest, because like none of us are perfect, and that's just the reality. And so I think that is something that is going to continue to shape me, is just leading in love, and something I think that I really like draw to in leadership is like individual connections with people. I just like love hearing people's stories, and I love just being able to share my story in order to help other people. And so I think that is a way that there are dozens of like stories and people that I have connected with in Concordia that I feel like I've been able to lead through that love in leadership.
Yeah. You all are you're touching on so many great principles of leadership, right, that I've studied and certainly get to put into practice at Concordia. One of them I think you're really talking about is really kind of team-based leadership. And as an athlete, you get this totally right. You don't play all the positions, you play your position. And we move an institution or a club or a class forward when we all play the roles that we're designed to play and lean on each other. And no one person kind of holds it all. And that's one of my kind of fundamental tenets of leadership as I lead an institution is I don't have to do it all. I can't do it all, be perfect, know everything. But man, can I surround myself with people who can, right? And people who complement who I am. And so I look at our leadership team across campus, and they're all vastly different than me. And we each bring our own gifts and skills. And when you approach that with a heart of humility and a heart of humble service and a heart of I might be wrong, and together we are better. That is kind of the core to successful leadership, and you all have articulated that really well. So thanks for learning that at Concordia and putting it into practice and just living into that principle of leadership. I think it's really important. let's talk. What else do you want people to know about Concordia? And we're going to end with that question. I actually want to come back to a different one and say, you've both touched on the sense of Concordia, what we call belonging. And that's really, again, another leadership principle of kind of bringing your whole self or authentic leadership. What does it mean to belong at Concordia, and how do you all help create a spirit of belonging, and how do you just experience it for yourselves? Raley, what's that look like for you?
Yeah, so I really like what you said earlier, KK, about how, like, whenever you wave, like, whenever you see someone in the hallway, you just wave. Like, even if you don't know them, like, everyone is very kind at Concordia. And something that I really learned my freshman year was just to, like, press into my community. Because we have such a diverse, like, group of people on campus. And so, like, you can find community in anyone. There are so many different types of people. And so finding your community is something that really helped shape me, who I am, because when I was in high school, I just did not have the best community. I didn't have people who had my best interest in mind. I didn't have people who supported me in my faith, but it's the complete opposite here at Concordia. Not only, like, my friends, but also professors. Every single professor that I've come across not only cares about me as a student, but me as a person as well. And so I think that a sense of belonging at Concordia is not only belonging with your school, but also belonging with your community and with the Lord, because there's so many opportunities to press into that relationship with Jesus, by your community, by your professors, by organizations. And so I think that I've really just found a sense of belonging here, with people who are like-minded of faith.
I love you use both the words like-minded and also diverse, and that is the beauty of God's creation, right? We are all unique, very differently, and by design, God designed us to be different, and yet also have so much in common, right? And that's the beauty of humanity, and sometimes the challenge of humanity, and yet when you can see that through God's eyes, you can see the beauty of that. How for you, KK, what does belonging look like?
Concordia has really showed me that, like, yes, in high school, like, you learn a little bit of who you are, maybe what you want to do, kind of start paving that path. Sure. But in college, it's like you are building your path with every interaction you have by, like, networking or just meeting your classmates, because like Rayleigh's saying, like, you get to wave and say hi to someone you don't even know. Someone will smile back. Professors will say, hey, I noticed you doing X, Y, and Z. How can I help? Or they're vessels trying to pour into you. And everyone on campus wants to help each other out. And that's something that the beauty of having such a small campus is that they want to support you. They want to advocate for you, and they want to see what next steps they can help you reach. And that's honestly something that I've learned throughout my 4 years here. There's never been a moment where I feel alone, where I feel like I can't ask for help. And there's never once that I felt like, oh no, like, I don't know what to do. No one's here that can kind of help pave that path. And I've kind of found a way to belong, like, individually, you know, like, you don't have to belong to a group, but, like, your whole group is Concordia. Like, I got to learn so much about myself, about how to be a better leader, how to be a better classmate, how to be a better friend, a daughter. This is my first 2 years on campus. I had to learn how to be a good daughter and a sister living away from my family. Right. I'd never experienced that before. It's also a vocation, right? And so having to build that relationship back with them after moving out for 2 years, and then rebuilding it when I moved back in, different dynamics, and then having to, I guess the roles reversed, having to create a stronger bond with my friends now that I don't live, you know, down the hallway from them. And so I feel like Concordia has really shown me different paths, different vocations, and it's something that, you know, you learn, but in a controlled environment, in an environment where you feel safe to fail, and where you feel empowered to succeed.
Yeah, love it. We're almost out of time, but I want to ask real quick. You've already mentioned Dr. Humans, Dr. Carey, Dr. Guerrero. Tell me, shout out to one other, either faculty or staff or class, that has been deeply impactful to you. Quickly.
I would honestly have to say Dr. Casey Pospisil. From my freshman year, being one of the people in the back and on my phone, not really knowing what to do, I feel like she's really embodied the phrase that I like to use, like teaching someone to fish and not fishing for them. I honestly, I love just using that phrase because it just embodies, like, I'm going to teach you the process. I'm going to teach you the journey that you have to embark. But I'm not just going to say, I'm going to get you right there. Don't worry. Like, get any shortcuts, because that's not life. That's not realistic.
It's not learning.
No, exactly. I mean, we're at an institution. You want to learn.
Yes.
But Dr. Casey's like, hey, this is what we need to do. This is how we're going to do it. Now you're going to go through this process. Like, she'll give you the outline, but you have to put on all the content, all the hard work. And throughout my 3.5, 4 years here, I've slowly learned how to do that, and now I'm having to learn how to do that for someone else. Try to teach them the lessons that she's taught me.
Yeah, love it. Raley, who else for you?
I would say Pat Fick. She's just like so authentically herself, and she just truly has no agenda, and she
just loves people.
He loves people, and she is not afraid to be herself, and that's what I love most about her, is that she doesn't feel like she has to act cool to fit in. She's just herself, and she loves people. And I just want to embody that in my leadership and in my future vocation as a church worker. And so, yeah.
I love those shout outs as sort of a final word of what it means to really lead with faith. And so thank you so much, KK and Raley, for joining me for this. What a fun conversation. I would love to sit here with you all day and talk about these things. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for the ways that you've made a difference at Concordia. You will both be missed greatly when you leave us in just a few short months. But we are so excited to continue to be a part of your lives and to watch what it is that you go out into the world and continue to lead with faith. Thank you for tuning in to Leading with Faith. If you enjoyed these conversations, we invite you to share this with others who might be inspired by these leadership insights. Until next time, continue to lead with faith.